First of all, very warm welcome to people who have just recently joined this group. I'm really excited. I mean, slowly, this group is getting bigger, which is fantastic because, it's just happening organically. And yeah, that's the whole purpose. This group is for people who are genuinely looking to make a start or learn about this strategy. They've heard about it and they want to know, is it really as good as it sounds, or people make it out? I mean, there are many myths about this strategy as well at the same time, but it is a fantastic strategy and I'm a live example. If I can do it, anybody can do it, So definitely I would say it's a great strategy. It's ethical way of making money, so definitely you can do it. But you just got to cherry pick your deals. This is something you need to learn, and this is where it pays for you to get yourself, a good mentor or someone who can actually tell you ins and outs of it, so you actually understand what works and what you really need to look for in a deal. So you need to have really solid understanding and never ever use your emotions whenever you are taking any deals, because very soon, your infatuation for that property or that deal will just fizzle out, and then you will realize that, it just becomes a pain. We don't want to be in that situation, right? So yeah, so basically this whatever I'm going to share today, it's something that's based on my own experience, because, I've been doing it for last 3-4 years, and what I've learned about this strategy and the lessons that I have learned, things that people don't normally talk about. I thought I'm just going to talk about that. Okay, so number one, if you want to write it down as well, guys, feel free, make notes because this is going to be very useful for you guys. If somebody who's totally new and is watching and trying to learn the strategy, feel free to make notes on it as well. Yeah. So sometimes people ask, what type of property, what size property is the right size? I mean, sometimes we hear that, okay, we can start a rent to rent with 3-bed or 4-bed. That's absolutely fine. We can do it, but what is the optimum number? So from my own experience, what I find that optimum number to start, when you're doing your rent to rent deal, so optimum number for any property where I found they do the best, they are best size properties. They are usually 5-bed or 6-bed properties. They are brilliant for this type of strategy because they not only give you enough cash flow to cover you for any voids, just in case you have a short period where there is a void, so there is enough cushion there. And also 5 or 6 rooms are okay, really, people don't mind. If you start going for really large properties, this is where, you will come across situations where actually when tenants are applying for your property or they are inquiring about the rooms, you will find that the moment you tell them it's a 8-bedroom or 9-bedroom property or 10-bedroom property, it can put them off, Unless that property comes with all ensuite rooms, then it's a different matter altogether, obviously. But optimum number is definitely, I would say 5 or 6-bed properties do really well. So whenever you are looking, always bear that in mind. Obviously, if you really want to make a start, you can make a start with even 4-bed property as well. Nothing wrong with it. And I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard it, but definitely 5 or 6-bed property that's the best number, because I've noticed that 7-bed, 8-bed, that can be a little bit off-putting for people. So I'm not trying to put people off who are actually looking to start. When you're just starting, numbers stack and everything. If you're doing a deal analysis, if it's working, then obviously go for it. But ideally, if you can find a deal that has got, either 5 or 6 bedrooms, that would be the best one. So that's another myth. I just wanted to break that myth as well. People always say, oh, let's start, how with buy to let, people say, okay, we don't really want to put too much money into it, or we want to just start really small. So let's just start with 2-bed property, or, when we're doing our buy to lets or, a BRR investment. But it's not the case with this rent to rent strategy. It doesn't work very well. So it's a very bad approach if you're thinking, oh, let's start with the smaller size property for rent to rent. Let's start off with 3-bed. I mean, usually when sometime it has happened to me as well, when people join me, for mentorship and they say, okay, Sapna, I really want to do rent to rent, but I'm a bit scared. So I just want to try with the smaller property because I don't really want to take risk. And then I really have to, I have to work on the psyche because I know the truth. In fact, by you going for a smaller property, it's a bit more risky because, if number one reason is that because if you're going for, say, 4-bed property, or if it is a 3-bed property with a reception room and you're going to make it as a 4-bed, now if you're going for that smaller property, nothing wrong with it, okay, if numbers work fine, you can go for it, but always bear in mind that the risk will be little higher for you as well. So the moment you will have a void, any void in that property, it will eat up all your profit. So basically, it's not really a good idea to go for a smaller property. It's always best. Again, I said that stick to that optimum number, which is 5 or 6 bed. I would say that is the best number. If you could ideally get those size properties, 5 or 6. I remember my very, very first property was a 5-bed HMO. So definitely I would say that never ever think that, okay, if you're going to start off with small, your risk is less. No, in fact, it's other way around. Smaller properties, you'll have bigger risk because the moment you will have any void, it's going to eat up all your profit. In fact, you may end up making a little bit of loss as well in that month. Hopefully, it will not last for very long, but definitely this approach is very, very wrong. So this is a myth. Don't have that mindset where you want to start small. The bigger the property is better for you because it's going to give you better cushion as well, because you're looking at how much profit you're going to make from each room per month. So it's really important that you bear that in mind. Obviously, if any smaller property comes in your way, but if numbers work, you're going to take it, but you're going to go with the right approach. So that's what I want to say to people because it's a very, I come across that a lot with people, when I'm talking to them or when they're starting out with me, and I don't know where they get this, this idea from. Maybe it's just because we think, oh, we shouldn't take bigger risk and let's start small. I mean, I do get it where they're coming from because obviously 4-bedroom properties rent will be lower, so you're thinking about the rent, but don't forget that rent is going to come from your own tenants. So definitely it's more risky to go for smaller properties than bigger property. Definitely 100%. So that's one myth. That's another myth that you really need to get rid of. Right. Another thing, people, it's a very common myth. This is how this whole rent to rent HMO strategy and rent to rent service accommodation strategy has been advertised, or you see, this is how it has been marketed. People generally think it's a myth because I've done both, so I know the real side of both of these strategies. People say that, service accommodation, you make really good, healthy money in that, and people think, oh, HMO, it doesn't give you enough profit. The profit margin is very, very low. But this is where people are wrong because they don't realize that, even HMOs make really good, solid profit. I mean, now in my own group, I've got people like Shirley Ann, I've got people like, Pauline, I've got people who are taking deals. I've got people like Richard, he's taken a deal, and deals are making they're making some solid money on them, £800 net profit, £700 net profit, £900 net profit. So those type of figures. And don't forget, the best thing about this HMO strategy is that, there is not that much management to it. You're not, once your property is full, it becomes like a semi-passive. You don't have to be in your property all the time. You're not really checking in, checking out people. You're not really changing the beddings and all that. You're not doing all that. So your overheads are really a lot less. So it's a big myth when people say, oh, SAs will make you, make us more money. That does not happen because you make more money. In long run, HMOs are always more profitable. I know this from my own experience. It was a myth when I started my service accommodation alongside my HMO. I thought, wow, I never even knew that. So much of it actually goes in maintaining my property. And you are just, you're hanging by the thread because you are just so, you feel so fragile because you're vulnerable. You're really relying on people's reviews, and people, if they put bad review, it can just completely destroy your SA business, because people, if they're feeling really bad, or, they have got this grudge and they want to put really something bad about your property, it brings down your rating, and then you end up reducing your nightly rate because, whoever will book your rooms, they will look at the reviews that other people have been putting. And obviously, they're going to look at the most recent review. And you have no control over it. You can't remove that review. So, in that way, I would say, in longer run, if I'm looking, it's a big myth where people say, SAs make more money. No, SA don't make more money. It's actually HMO that makes more money. 100%. Hi, Krasi. Hi, Richard. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely. I mean, this is just coming from horse's mouth again. It's a very big myth when people say SAs are very profitable. And don't forget, in SAs, you have peak periods and you have really down periods as well. So this does not normally happens in HMO strategy. So this is another thing you really need to, you may see some months where you're having hikes, or on weekends you may charge a little bit more, but then again it goes right down during the week. So nightly rates fluctuate so much. You are so heavily reliant on people's reviews. You're so heavily reliant on how much demand is there. You are so heavily reliant on people's actually the competition that you have in the local area, because you have no control over it. You don't know which other new SA unit has emerged in the same postcode, or on the same street, or in the same block. If you've got an apartment, then there may be 9 other apartments in the same block, and you don't know when you took your unit, maybe there were only 3 or 4, but there is no control. You don't have any control over it. And this is where I find that HMO there is less competition, because people always need somewhere to live. It's steady source of income. Once you have your tenants in your property, then you can almost then forget about it. Okay, you're going to keep an eye on it, and you're going to, as and when you need, okay, obviously you're going to keep an eye and you're going to manage it really nicely. But still, in long run, SA strategy does not make you more money than HMO, because, if you're looking at the overheads and your expenses on a monthly basis, whatever you're paying, or if you have a management company that is managing your service accommodation, a massive chunk of whatever takings you're having on a monthly basis goes to them, so it's a myth when people say, oh, I want to get into SA because it's more profitable. I get that a lot from people. So it's a big myth, because I've done both and I know the reality. So don't fall for it. If you want to listen, I mean, obviously this is just coming from my own experience. I've done both, so I kind of know this side of it. Again, another thing, another thing I want to say to people, that, people, when they're doing their numbers, they're always looking at, oh, how much money I'm going to make on a monthly basis on this property. Whereas my approach is totally different. It's irrelevant how much money you're going to make each month. The biggest thing that you should have in your mind is, how soon am I going to get my investment out? And this is when this strategy becomes, it just becomes so, it's a fun, because if you think about it, as long as you've got all your money out, then you're really making, infinite profit on that deal. Does it really matter how much profit? Because once you have few deals, then it doesn't really matter, because whatever money you are making, as far as you're concerned, you've got all your money out, whether it's taken 6 months, 9 months, 10 months, or whatever. So to me, that should be your priority. And it's a big myth when people pay all their attention, or they think more about, how much money they're going to make from a deal. I personally think that's a very wrong approach. You should be looking at, how soon you're going to get your money back out from that deal. That should be your highest priority from a deal. So that's another very big myth. Very rarely you will see when sourcer are sourcing their deal, some do, they say, okay, this is what the ROI is on this deal, but they never talk about how soon you're going to get money out, because not everybody understand what ROI means, So I personally, me doing the business, I know this is what is more important, because that's when it becomes, that's when it becomes proper lucrative strategy, because you've got a lot of deals. As far as you're concerned, you've got all your money out, whatever now you're making going forward, that's it. You can just continue to make that money. So definitely that's another thing I would say. Another myth, people think that, if it's a flat, or if property isn't in the city center, it's not going to work. That's another myth. Now, if property is not in the city center, it doesn't matter, because there is market for every type of property. Every type of property. Obviously, you will tweak your rent according to where that property is located, but there is demand for every type of property. 100%. And this is another myth where people say, oh, if it's a flat, will it work as an HMO? Obviously, of course it will work as an HMO. And if you think about it, there are so many flats. I've got some maisonettes, and they have got HMO license. So definitely flats do work. It's just when you're doing your numbers, you just need to be mindful that, when you're working out, or when you're putting your rent, you need to be mindful of the fact that, okay, rent may be slightly different. So those type of things can vary. These are the variables, but definitely 100%, there is market for every type of property, 100%. So that's another thing. It's a big myth when people say, I have got one of my property, it's like in Durham area. Now, Durham is not really heavily populated. Durham is not really, it's still, when I advertise that property on the market, it's funny, I started getting, and I really didn't think that I wanted to rent that property on a room-to-room basis, but to my surprise, I got inquiries from people saying that, we don't really want to rent the whole property, but we would like to rent, a room in that property. So it just simply shows there is demand everywhere. The only thing you need to think about is, am I charging right rent? If you're really charging right amount or right figure, if you're advertising or if you're marketing your property with the right figure, right rent, then definitely 100% demand is there. So this is another myth. Every property works. And another thing, people think, oh, certain cities, certain towns don't work. Every town works. There is demand in every area for your property. That's another myth I wanted to break as well. There is no such thing. Don't ever think that, oh, this area isn't very good for rent to rent. Every area is very good. The bottom line is, do numbers stack? Does that deal stack? That is the most important thing. And this is where you need to have right type of understanding. You need to have right type of, you need to have that, you need to have right type of approach when you're doing your numbers. So you know that, okay, this property, if I rent it at this price, then definitely, it's going to make me some money. So this is where you really need to be mindful of it. So every property, every area works. Now people think, oh, in London, you make big profit because it's a big city, and in smaller cities, profit isn't as high. That's another myth, because it doesn't matter. Even if in London, you're renting a property and you're paying higher rent, but when you get that money back out from your own tenants, your profit margin is still same. It's nearly the same what you will make in up north. So it doesn't really matter. Your profit is still going to be same. So there is no, I wouldn't say that there are good or bad areas in that. Definitely that comes from my experience. Every area, every city, every type of property works because, people, they have different budgets, and people, there are always people who will want to go for that. And I don't know why people get stressed that, oh, my 4-bed I will not be able to fill, because if you think about it, out of so many people living in that area, you only need 4 or 5 people to fill that property, and your property is full, so it doesn't really take that long for your property to get filled. So another thing, don't worry too much about the area, don't worry too much about the location. The bottom line is you need to learn how to do your numbers. You need to have solid understanding of it. That's very, very important. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer them. Right. Another one final myth I would like to break for people as well. If you are thinking about rent-to-rent strategy, if you want to make a start in rent-to-rent, I come across people and they say, I sometimes ask them, okay, so how many properties would you like to have? In rent-to-rent, and they say, I don't want to be too greedy. I think 2 will do for me, or I'm happy. I think I just need another £500, or I need another £800 just to top up my salary. And I think 1 property will be enough, 1 or 2. I don't really want to have too many property. And this is where people are wrong. This strategy works better if you have few properties. If you are just sticking to 1 property, it becomes really difficult. So don't have that approach. Either don't do the strategy. If you're going to do this strategy, make sure, even if you don't want to have loads and loads of properties, but at least have enough. And I always give example in my group as well. It's like, when parents have just 1 child, all their concentration, all their focus, all their worry is on that, their full concentration is on that 1 child. And if that 1 child is having any problem, not doing very well in school, or having any health issues or whatever, we get overly concerned. We really get very, very worried about that child. Although, as an outsider, if somebody else is looking, they may think that you're overreacting, but this exact thing happens actually for people who just run 1 rent-to-rent, so that's why it's very, very important that, you have more than 1 properties, because then what will happen? These properties will take care of each other. So you may have a void in 1 property, then that second property will take care of that void. So it's very important. It's like when you have 4 or 5 kids, you always know, especially, I know nowadays it's not very common, but people, like if you look at older generation, people used to have 4, 5, 6 kids. And we always used to see in families, older siblings used to take care of younger siblings, and parents didn't even know, and how easy it was for them to bring their children up. For me, even I think about my own example, because I was the youngest kid in my family, I was more closer to my older siblings, my brother, my sister, and I would say I was more closer to them, and I was brought up by them more because I was like a kid child in the family. So same thing happens, when you have 1 child, then all parents' concentration is on that. Exactly same thing happens in this rent-to-rent strategy. So if you're thinking of having this rent-to-rent business, don't think, oh, I'm just going to have 1 or 2 property. Have at least 4 or 5. Even if you don't want to have too many, at least have a healthy number, which is easy for you to manage. But at the same time, if you're having any voids in one of the properties, if you're having any problem, then at least you will have another property which is doing extremely well, and they will take care of each other. And it's like, when you have 4 or 5 in a family, if parents have 4 or 5 children, one children will be very good in everything, very smart, very good in studies and everything, really like a shining star. Another child who needs help and support in every way. And this happens in this, and I've witnessed this in this rent-to-rent business. So definitely I would say, if you guys are thinking of, having your rent-to-rent business, always aim to have more than one properties. Because if you don't, you're going to end up getting more stressed. Because I find that even in my own group as well. And that's why I say to people, start looking for your second deal. Because, that will take your stress away in a way. Because everybody, whoever has portfolios, will actually vouch for it. It's like then you have a choice. If you feel that one of your property isn't really doing that well, then at least you can give that property up. Once you have done, you finished your term, you can give that property back to the landlord, and you still have 4 or 5 properties left. So even if you're not, you don't have intention to have too many properties, but you still have fair few numbers in your portfolio, always go for it. And don't think that you're being greedy, and don't think that, you can't manage. In fact, it's going to get easy for you. So that's another myth I really want to break for people, because sometimes what happens, people who just have one, because they get so stressed with one, which is totally, I always look at them as like parents with one child, because they just thinking and they're worried about tenants, and they're concentrating so much on every single little problem. It just becomes like almost like a headache. And whereas what you need to do, you need to step back and look at it as a business and get another property, and then that property will do well, and they will look after each other. I find that a lot. In my portfolio, certain properties I find that, they're always very, very clean, never have any issues. Tenants are paying on time, never making a fuss whenever I need to go and inspect or go in the communal area or anything like that. Whereas you have one property where, everybody's, not everybody, but you will find that there are some tenants who will moan about little things, everything. So you really want to have mixture, because otherwise, if you just end up with one property, that problem becomes too big, because you've got no other problem. So you're just concentrating on that one problem, so that's one thing. Now, guys, I don't know what time it is. I'm just going to check. Right. I think I'm running a little bit late today. Just going to give you one more bonus. I think I'm in a very good mood today, and I want to share that with you guys as well. There is another myth, just one more I'm going to give, and then we will finish. So another myth is that people normally think that, oh, okay, I'm going to get my money back out from this deal in 6 months' time, or I'm going to get my money back out from this rent-to-rent deal in 10 months' time. Does that mean that for 10 months I can't look for another deal? Obviously you can look for another deal. Don't think just because you're not going to get your money back out from that deal, it stops you from getting another deal. Because when you're going to get your another deal, you're going to use your cash flow, and it has nothing to do with how soon you're going to get your full money out from your first property. So the cash flow that you will start generating from day one, this is where, people maybe, I think when you don't have rent to rent, you can't think that way. People lack, I'm not going to say that they lack common sense. I think it's just because they're not really doing it. So they can't really see themselves in that situation. But definitely, just because you're not going to get money out from a deal, that's a totally different thing from, you getting your next deal. So definitely, the money you will start generating from your first deal, that money will then be useful for you to go and get or pay for your next deal. Definitely, 100%. And this is how I grew my business. Every single month, I picked one deal religiously. I picked one deal. And anybody can do it. It's no rocket science, So guys, if you want to learn the strategy the right way, if you want to learn how to do it properly, then reach out to me. I'll teach you, because I've got loads of winners in my group. Krasi, you're doing extremely, extremely well, and I'm so proud of you. Ahmed, I'm really proud of your property, and I know that, well done, Krasi. I'm super proud of you. And Ahmed, I love your property. It's beautiful, Beautiful. And the way you are growing, and I know you're gonna do really, really well. Nasir, I'm right behind you as well. So guys, any other question, feel free to ask. I'm gonna stay for a few more seconds and learn the strategy. More than anything, learn it from someone who's actually walked the walk, will tell you the truth. You don't really want somebody to just tell you the fake things. You want to know the real side of it, good or bad, good or ugly. You want to know, because then at least you're going in this strategy or starting with the right mindset, and you know what you're doing. So get someone to handhold you. It's definitely worth it. People sometimes they look at the money and they think, oh, I don't want to invest that money. But don't forget, the experience you're going to get from that person and the loyalty of that person who's actually going to work with you. That means a lot. I really wanted that type of person who could actually literally handhold me, and, take me through the whole process. But unfortunately, when I started, thank you, Ahmed. I'm so proud of you. And I'm so proud of your wife as well, the way you guys are working as a team. Honestly, she is she's a true power. Definitely. 100%. Hi, Richard. How are you? Yeah. So guys, yeah, definitely, I would say, get yourself trained in this. Get yourself someone, who can teach you the right way. Trust me, by you working alongside with someone who's walked the walk, you're not really getting a mentor. Think about the money you're investing in yourself, because it's going to help you and save you from doing really expensive mistakes. Really, really expensive mistakes. You don't want to do that. If you're thinking about it, don't sit on the fence. Take action. A lot of properties are out there. If you are prepared to work hard, and if you're prepared to, look for opportunities, definitely opportunities are there. My team is doing it. So Ahmed and Krasi and everybody taking action. So definitely, I'm so super proud of you guys, honestly. Well done, everybody. And thank you for all your company today. Really, really thankful for that, because I know I had a real issue with my Facebook Live as usual. Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you. Take care then, and enjoy rest of the evening. And I will be seeing you very, very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.